So tell us a little bit more about how effective this has been. Exactly what kind of impact is Ukraine's retaliation having on Russia's energy exports?
It's a really difficult one because, especially since this war began, Russia has become very secretive about its exports to try and get around sanctions. So lots of the statistics are either incomplete or are released very much delayed. So we don't really have a very clear picture. We're not sure that the numbers we're seeing are true. It does seem, though, that in the latter part of last year, Russia had to reduce its exports of refined oil products by about 10%. It compensated that with crude oil because basically Ukraine had been attacking the oil refineries, so it was having to sell crude oil, which is less profitable to sell because the added value is then done by the people buying that crude and processing it. On the other hand, it has to be said, rising oil prices worldwide have meant that even selling smaller volumes of oil has meant that the kind of sum that Russia receives seemingly hasn't changed that much. But I think Ukraine is trying to up its game. We're seeing that the drones that are reaching these targets deep in Russia are getting heavier. They're able to carry bigger weapons, bigger bombs, bigger explosives. It's obviously still not comparable to the kinds of ballistic missiles that hit Ukraine every day with tens or hundreds of kilos of warhead. These are much lighter drones, but we are seeing that whereas previously there would be localized fires, we're seeing sometimes fires that go on for days or weeks at these oil facilities that are then kind of laid lame for weeks, months at a time. We've seen the Ukrainians waiting for the Russians to repair certain oil facilities and then months later coming in just to attack them once more expensive equipment has been put there. And we've seen Russian oil ports on the Baltic Sea, for instance, having to basically stop processing ships because the pipelines have been hit and nothing is coming in addition to the Western sanctions that are really finally being kind of hardened up. We're seeing just the last thing the Biden administration did basically for Ukraine was to put more sanctions on Russia's tanker fleet. Altogether, it is having an impact, and it is meaning that less profit reaches the Russian government than would otherwise be the case.
So let's take a quick look at where things go from here. To carry on hitting these Russian targets, Ukraine says it needs Western support. Donald Trump has suggested he wants Ukraine to supply Washington with rare earth minerals. How has Ukraine reacted to this offer?
I think people here in Kiev, the politicians, are delighted. This is something they've been pushing. They've been trying to tell the Trump team that helping Ukraine is also helping America, that there is a business interest here, that Ukraine is not just, putting out a hand and asking for help, but that it has something to give in return and that profit can be made here. It has to be said that no one tried to develop these resources, lithium, titanium, on a big scale in recent decades, in terms of additional Western investments.